channel soon. That sounded like I was putting a question mark on the end of it. It is just because I have a lag on my own mic, which sounds quite strange from my end. And the main reason for that is that I changed the way the monitoring worked so I could hear myself. So I was trying to improve the sound quality. I'm quiet. Okay. Just whack it up. So yesterday someone told me, hey, can you put a bunch of stuff on the mic to reduce the amount of breathing sounds? In other words, what they said was, you're a disgusting mouth breather and you need to cut it out. So I've just been fiddling around with sound trying to stop that happening so much. Today we are back on itch.io looking at some of the web browser games. I fixed it. Excellent. Cool. Why is it that there is no such thing as an audio readout where red is actually bad? Because every single audio program I use, this bit where it's yellow and it's going into red is always the bit you're actually supposed to aim for, which is not how those colors are supposed to work. So we're going to be on itch.io today. We're going to be checking out some browser games. I've got 12 lined up. We'll see how many we can get through in 2 hours. And if this is your first time on the stream, hello. Vitor, I'm not taking any recommendations today. Please don't try and get your game on the stream. These are all games that have been in a queue for a while, so bear that in mind. And, you know, there's a thing over there, how to submit a game. That tells you how to submit a game. How to submit a game is not to come in the chat and tell me about it. We're too busy. We have too big a queue. Welcome. If this is your first time on the channel, every day, at least 50 games get released to Steam, and many of them are rubbish. And you know why? Because people didn't get them to play them before they decided to put them on a commercial platform. And that's one of the reasons why I love itch so much, is that it is a good place for people to test out their game ideas before they go all in on them. And it's a good way for people to kind of host games to be play tested and so on. And I just tend to find that the itch community is much more made up of like hobbyists that really, really care about trying to make a good game rather than just shipping whatever they can make as quickly as possible, which I think we have a bit of a problem with generally. I think that the culture around game dev on YouTube and on Reddit is very, very focused on just make whatever you can and ship it really quickly, which I'm not really interested in. You know, I'm a designer. I enjoy games. I enjoy making games, but I'm also like a sort of fan of indie games, and I want to see people make good games. I'm not super invested in, you know, just ship whatever you can type stuff. So I always glad to see people starting out on itch, because I think it's a much more appropriate place to start than just going straight to market with something. So I'm always happy to see that. So I'm just fighting Streamlabs a little bit this morning. And then we'll get started properly. Just trying to get it so I can see the chat's big enough for me to see. There we go. Cool. Not taking any questions about future streams. We're just going to get straight on with looking at these games. So you can answer most of your questions by looking at the website. Really, it's all on there. The form to submit tells you everything you need to know about what sort of games you can submit and what state they need to be in and all of that kind of stuff. I don't take multiplayer games. I don't take free-to-play mobile games. I don't take any mobile games. You can intuit a lot of this from watching the channel, but a lot of it is information that's on the website as well. This is called Self. If you've got general questions about game development, we'll get to them after maybe 3 or 4 of these games, because otherwise we'll get sidetracked right at the beginning. If you're watching the VOD back, or if you want to find any of these games and check them out yourself, I will be going back through the YouTube VOD afterwards and adding timestamps on them with the links wherever possible. So this is called Self. It looks like it's inspired by Journey. I'm not going to be able to read the dev notes on most of these because we've got a lot to get through in one stream. So. It won't let me full screen it for some reason. You feel a curse growing inside. The elder told you the answers wait in the temple atop the highest peak. Yeah, if you've sent a game and you're waiting for it to get in the queue, bear in mind that the list has like 200 games on. And I do 2 of these streams a week. We get through about maybe 8 games. I'm doing more streams this week to try and clear the backlog. But, yeah. It's also not in chronological order. I do it by theme. So we might have a stream that has 1 game in that was submitted 6 months ago and 1 game that was submitted a week ago. It's not in kind of a first come, first serve thing. It's done based on how I can group the games together. Right, I've got a sprint button. I really like that vignette, the speed vignette. It's informative. It makes it feel faster than it is when we speed up. And it kind of matches the art style of the rest of the game. It sort of feels like it makes sense with it. Oh, we've got a double jump. Okay, I'm already pleasantly surprised because I think Journey is a lovely game, but when people talk about it as a source of inspiration, I think, okay, your favorite game is a game where you don't really do anything. This is really pretty. It feels nice. All of the like basic character controller stuff feels quite nice. I should probably stop saying nice. One thing about this environment, I think if you're making 3D environments like this, you want to think a little bit about how the top of textures differ from the side of textures, and if they're visually distinct enough. Because the surfaces we can run on and the surfaces we can't aren't super distinct here. It sort of visually reminds me a little bit of Chants of Sonar as well. To enter, you must embrace the curse. The thought alone chills your body. Okay. Oh, interesting. We've got a funky palette swap. I'm embracing the curse, I guess. I embraced the curse by falling down a hole. Can I get up there? I can't get up there. So what am I supposed to do? Because I've tried that twice and failed in a way that maybe taught me that that is not possible. But maybe it is. That's a difficult one because it looks almost possible. And that to me is... Well, now I feel like I've learned that that is not a possible jump. So I'm looking for alternatives, but I can't see alternatives. I'll just go back the other way. I love this location design, but yeah, this first, if this is meant to be jumpable, I can't do it. I've only got a double jump. So, we're probably going to have to finish this one early, because I can't see what I'm supposed to do to progress. You haven't given me any additional information. I've just opened this door, come in here, and then What am I supposed to do? Can I wall run? I don't think I can. I managed to switch it back somehow. Ah, okay, cool. Okay, we've got a switch kind of gimmick thing. So I think it was telling me that on the screen with this thing down in the bottom right that's next to my head. Got it. People will always miss something. So I'm jumping and double jumping with A and then pressing B to switch this kind of level modes between the light mode and the curse mode. One thing I really like about the visual design of this is I think there's like quite a simple shader or LUT or whatever you call that that's changing the color, but they sort of go like you can imagine two pictures on a wall and there's this blue and orange one and then this orange and purple one. They kind of still feel like they're part of the same thing, and that makes it feel quite coherent even though it's very clearly indicating which mode we're in. Yeah, Robin, I think you're onto something there. So Robin in the chat just suggested putting the diagram in the environment rather than in the corner. Because the problem is, if you looked at what happened for me there, right? If you looked at what happened for me, I was looking at the center of the screen. I was looking for the next thing to do. And the place where the thing was in my periphery. It's also white in an environment with lots of white on, so it doesn't grab as much attention as it could do. I would think about what your player is paying attention to and how to utilize that. I think one of the single most helpful things about this stream, I mean, the feedback is one thing, and then you've got the community in the chat who will give you feedback and ideas as well. But one of the most helpful things this stream does is show you how hard it is to idiot-proof a game. Right, because if a game designer with a PhD can't understand or remember how parts of your game work, then you probably got a problem. Not that having a PhD necessarily means someone has any common sense, because most of us don't, but it's a good yardstick for certain things. We've all got similar sorts of brains most of the time, and when it comes to like eye and brain type stuff, like getting people to pay attention to a particular thing, that's real kind of you know, people are going to vary, but if you see more than one person have problems with like noticing where something is or remembering how something works or whatever, then those things are helpful to pay attention to. So one thing I'm noticing is you really have to switch modes and then observe the stuff to know what moves in each mode. There's not like any visual coding to say, okay, this moves when we're in dark mode and this moves when we're in light mode. And I think that's okay. I'm not necessarily saying it needs that, but it might be something that the game would need as it gets more complex. Very pretty environment though. It kind of looks like sort of like what if Santorini was in Fez? What if Santorini was in Journey? I really like the mood of it. It's a very simple mechanical gimmick, but it's definitely got something. But yeah, I would definitely have a think about how you do those on-screen button prompts, because that's your biggest danger point in terms of points of failure right now, because that could stop people playing the game like 10 seconds in. And the other thing is, if someone stops playing your game because it makes them feel stupid, they're also unlikely to give you the feedback that gives you that information, because people are self-conscious about that kind of stuff. So if they nope out of your game in 10 seconds because they can't work out what to do, they're not going to then come and give you like a full UX breakdown of the problem they had, because they're just frustrated with the game and the decisions you made that made the game hard to understand. because people play games to feel good generally, and if you make a game that makes people feel bad because they can't even do the first bit of accessing the game, then that's probably the worst. That's the worst place that your game could be broken, is in the initial kind of just like, how do I learn the first set of mechanics, you know? Because the rest of it should be a process of the player messing around and working out how the rest of the game works. That's the fun of learning a game. But if they can't get there in the first place, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to nope out and go and do something else. Common sense is often neither. Yeah, I like that saying. It's just people use it to describe things they think are obvious that everyone should know. And there's very, very few bits of information about the world or life that are obvious and everyone knows them. I'm going to move on from that. That is because I don't have a great deal to say apart from that early issue with that kind of visibility of that prompt. And I kind of like the commitment that they had to the minimalist style of the rest of the game by having that prompt in that style. But I do think, as I think it was Robin in the chat said, like, it being in the corner like that is kind of a problem. I think a lot of people dev on quite small screens as well, and then you don't see what it's like to be looking at a screen where the edge of the screen is actually in your peripheral vision. Like, if you're mostly on a small screen or a laptop, then you see the whole game at once. But if anyone is playing on anything larger than like a 32-inch screen or whatever, and they're still sitting at a desk, you kind of miss stuff that's at the edge of the screen. Okay. This is doing some weird stuff with locking the browser, so I can't do stuff. Pachinko Plex, I feel like maybe we've seen before, but I wasn't sure, so I put it on here again. This is like a little... It's a dynamic music sequencer crossed with a brick breaker. So we're doing breakout, but we're making music at the same time, which I think is... I just think that's a neat idea. And let's see if it's pleasing to interact with, because I think this is more of a toy than a game, which is not something that I say disparagingly, but... So I'm using my arrow keys. Do I... Oh, I can... Okay. Immediately confusing thing, because as a right-handed person, my mouse is on the right and my keys are on the left, and the thing that I control with the mouse is actually up here, and the thing that I control with the keys is over here, which is seems like a strange choice. So we play breakout and it causes the musical pachinko to happen on this side. And it looks like you can put your own blocks into the pachinko as well.
Bingo.
I sort of want to work out what different sounds these do. It's like the equivalent of rubbing your head and patting your belly, or the other way around, whatever the thing is. What does this do? This is wild. Okay, we've got a stop ball thing here. Okay, I'm going to start again. I'm not going to launch it. I'm just going to build a beat, and then we'll see how we get from there. So, I really want a line in the middle that shows me where the midpoint of this is. Because I can't... I've used audio workstations enough to know how a rhythm looks, if that makes sense, but I can't do that without these like mid lines to say that's in the middle of the thing. Okay, now I'm gonna launch the ball and we'll just see how the beat develops as I played the Breakout game. Sounds awful. Oh dear. Just sounds like Death Grips. This is the epitome of the listens to Death Grips once meme. Here we go. I'm going to put a Death Grips a cappella over on it. It's going to be out of time, but...
You can't dismiss this thing, transmission huffs your brain. Exhale your will.
That's fun. So, if you're completely confused by what you can see here, how do I stop it? How do I stop it entirely? This is a really silly toy. So you're playing Breakout. Breakout affects the grid on the other side, which you can also just manually... Oh, that's the ball over there. How do I stop the ball? Stop the ball! They both interact with each other in a really silly way, and then also the controls are backwards because the thing you're doing with the mouse is on the left-hand side of the screen, and the thing you're doing with the other controls is on the right-hand side of the screen, which is really confusing. It's slightly less confusing when you play it. Like, I understand what each part of the game does conceptually, but because it's requiring me to do one thing with the mouse that's unrelated to the left and right I'm doing with the keyboard, is very confusing. But I also, if the goal of something is to be anarchic and silly, then I think that type of confusing is okay. There are lots of games where being confusing isn't good because it's meant to be like a power fantasy game, whereas this is not. This is an anarchic music toy, which is using randomness and chaos to produce a particular effect, right? And that's why it sounds like Death Grips. Land on the bit of the acapella with the most F-bombs possible by randomly clicking on the Death Grips thing. Right, next one. That was very funny. Okay, this one looks like it might be mildly offensive and violent. It's called I Took My Shotgun to Work. So if you don't want to see me shoot a load of people in an office, then don't watch. And if you're some sort of censor, please bear in mind that this is a cartoon that a 40-year-old man is controlling. So anything bad happening in this game, I take full responsibility for as a human being. Because I'm not really doing this in real life, it's a cartoon. But let's see, it looks a bit edgelordy. A hyper-fast, recoil-powered office massacre. Recoil is movement, shoot to move, shoot to dodge, shoot to go fast. So we're doing downworld type stuff, where you're moving by shooting your gun, which is funny in its own right. But yeah, I mean, people are going to maybe find the theming here a problem. Shotguns in domestic spaces is less shocking in the UK because it's not as close to home. I don't really know a more sensitive way of putting that, but there's something about cartoon gun violence which just doesn't hit in the same way when you're in a country where people aren't regularly getting shot outside of the context of like breaking into a farmer's house. This is fun. So it also means we've kind of justified the mechanic because you're on a you're on an office chair and you use the gun to move backwards, which is very funny. How do I change? Oh. Okay, so you do a single click to use the pistol, and then you hold a click to use the shotgun, and the shotgun moves you back further. Which is a really confusing control scheme, but it makes sense for what we're doing here, which is movement in the opposite direction from where you're shooting. This is wild. Come back. Oh dear. It's good. It's good. I like it. It's a very good premise. I think maybe I can't see far enough in some of these situations. I would like to be able to see a little bit further ahead. Can I hit people with the chair as well? Can I do a chair kill? I did a chair kill. Next level. This is great. I would like to be able to see a little bit further. I really like the whole 2 guns with 1 click. So you click once to fire the pistol, you click and hold to fire the shotgun. They both push you different amounts of distance. It's a really good bit of UX design for like a unique game mechanic. I can see lots of ways that this same concept could have been executed in a way that used a million different buttons, and they've managed to do it with just the mouse and the left click and different ways of using the click. And I think the end result is really juicy and quick to pick up. We get some Max Payne bullet time moments. Killing people by going into them with the chair is very, very funny. I love the fact that you can do chair kills, because it's like you've taken the least cool weapon out of the arsenal. We've got a pistol, a shotgun, and a chair, and you've made the least cool weapon into the biggest skill move in the game. I needed to go through the exit. Do I need to go through the exit? Oh. Yeah, I don't have any. Ah, there we go. Oh my goodness. Let's just see what people say in the chat. No, the controls do add to the charm. It's like a game about learning this particular control scheme, you know? I've said this before about like games like Octodad. Most of the time, you want to just give people controls they're familiar with. But occasionally you get a game where the entire challenge is, can you learn this control scheme? Octodad is like that. Lots of Rage games are like that. It fits perfectly here because, okay, you've got a theme. It's someone with a killing everyone in office, whatever. That's very edgelordy, take it or leave it. But the game is fundamentally about, can you master this control scheme? And the game just wouldn't be as interesting or fun if I was doing a different set of actions. Like if I was rotating with the keyboard or anything, it's just using the mouse in a really interesting and funny way. It's a little bit laggy, but that's probably because it's a web build. I would think about, because this feels like it's already at a level of polish where it feels like it's kind of a game that people would buy, but you would need to think about having some kind of content strategy for how you make the offices look different and how you vary what these guys are doing as you get through the game, right? Like, are we going to have some dudes that explode? Are we going to have rooms with different color carpets? All of that kind of stuff. I would look at Ape Out and how Ape Out does its levels, because I think there's only actually like 3 or 4 levels in Ape Out, but they have some interesting content variations that make it fun to master each separate level. So I think not knowing where the last guy in the level is a little bit frustrating, but I guess it's also a normal thing to get in this kind of time attack game. Yeah, yeah, Kinoked in the chat was just saying that if the enemies could actually fight back, it would seem a bit less like a sort of, you know, public massacre simulator, which it is at the moment. Which it's kind of funny in a particularly bleak way, but that guy's got a baton, which is a weirder choice because, like, where have you ever been where there are people with batons in suits? It's like, are they meant to be corporate workers or security guards? We don't really know. So if I was going to try and expand and extend this game by varying the enemies and stuff, maybe the developer has already experimented with enemies with guns, but I think what I would do is give the player like a relatively large amount of health, or give them like a Halo recharging shield type thing. So the threat from getting shot isn't actually to do with getting shot enough to die, although that is a threat, but it's not like the main threat. The main threat is getting shot, like knocks your chair around off course, so you have to then deal with that and kind of deal with the lack of control that comes from that. Let's just have a quick look at what the developer said about this one. Need to do some color coding as we go along, so otherwise I get lost in the spreadsheet. What does it say? I brought my shotgun to work. A fast-paced top-down shooter inside a chaotic corporate office where every blast of recoil doubles as movement. Okay, that's what we experienced. I'd love to have your thoughts on the design, the pacing, and overall feel. Your feedback has a way of pushing small projects in the right direction, and I genuinely appreciate anything you notice. Yeah, so this is a game that is in a state that we will often see on itch, which is, you know, we see this all the time with like with jam games as well, where this is a very solid proof of concept. I could see people buying this as a game on Steam, but you have to answer the question of how does this change? Like, how do we get variations on the challenge as the game goes on? Because at the moment it just feels like different levels. I don't know if these are proc gen. They don't feel particularly bespoke, these levels. And it's kind of one of the problems with like office environments in games. Is like, how do you make them look different? I would think about I would come up with a big list of stuff you could do in this game, and some of it would be stuff that would make the game more varied from a challenge level, right? So enemies with guns, enemies that explode when they get too close to you, all of that kind of stuff. And something like Ape Out is a really good reference for that. And then I would come up with a list of things that you can do to aesthetically, cosmetically vary the levels and add a bit of kind of I guess humor, a little bit of storytelling of like, oh, we're into the next floor up, so now the carpet is blue, and then maybe we get to a point where we're in a penthouse and the carpet is red and there's like leopard print rugs and stuff like that all over the place. Whatever it is you do to vary it. Look at Hotline Miami, look at Ape Out, work out what the lowest cost in terms of your work approaches are to making that into a larger game with variety. Because it's kind of a case of you could put that on Steam now as a $1 game and people would buy it, but you could also spend like 3 more months on it and it would be a $10 game if you put the effort in the right places, you know? Let me just get the next one up. Oh. Just trying to hide some stuff on the giant spreadsheet of doom to make it easier to use. Next one is called Flick Party. I like a game about flicking things. I think flicking things is an inherently pleasing thing to do. This looks lovely just from the get-go. It's got that kind of thing. They've designed it to look like a pool table or some sort of parlor game with the green felt. But you've also got this lovely kind of flat overall visual design. Good typographic choices. When in doubt, use the same font everywhere. If you're not a graphic designer and you're trying to make graphical elements, just always go for the simplest option. Yeah, so the last game, some of the comments in the chat. Yeah, anything that would make it difficult to maneuver the chair around the office would be an interesting thing to have. Robin said it desperately needs defenestration. Yep, some of the best ape out moments are defenestration moments. It's time to flick some stuff. Okay. Yeah, the mic is peaking. It's very hard to get it loud enough for people without it constantly being in the red. There we go. Welcome to Flick Party. This is your striker. I can put it in any corner. Okay. This is a color disc. It currently has 6 hit points. You earn points by hitting it. Every time it bounces, you earn points equal to its current HP. The color disc's HP decreases after each bounce. This is your current score. Keep an eye on it. Is this based on what's the game with the balls and you build the little town and you have all of the multipliers and stuff? What's the name of that kind of pachinko roguelike that I haven't played yet, but it feels like it's going to be based on that to some degree. We're clicking. Oh, that's a nice interface. We're clicking and dragging. We're doing a sort of an Angry Birds, but after you've clicked, you can't change the direction. So you set the direction, then you click and drag. When it bops against the edge, we get more points from it as well. Your mult is also increased by 1 every time a disc or your striker bounces. Okay. Color discs are cleared from the table when the HP drops to 0. Ball times pit. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. I'm already feeling quite positive about this because it feels like the scoring that they're setting up matches quite intuitively with what you want to do in this game because it's inherently pleasing, which is smash as many things together as possible and watch them go whoosh all over the place and bump into each other. So they've mapped the scoring onto the thing that a player is just going to enjoy doing in the first place, which is a very good idea. Like if you've got a rather abstract idea for a game and you don't really know what the goal is yet, make the scoring a function of the thing that is the most pleasing thing in the game to do. Try clearing the color disc from the table. I will do that. It's my mission. So it goes down to 0 and then at the end of the turn it gets taken away. This is your rack. It shows all your currently available discs. Okay. When a disc is cleared from the table is re-racked with the remaining discs. Okay. I just want to get through this now so I can play the game properly. Target score. Yeah, this is all Balatro stuff. I get it. You know what I'm really liking about the Balatro wave is we've made points cool again. And European board games have been okay with this for ages. If you watch any sort of parody video about Euro games or German games, they always make fun out of how you get victory points from all these arbitrary things. I like getting points. I like a game about getting points. I love a multiplier. I was a teenager when Tony Hawk 1 and 2 came out. I love a score chain with a multiplier on it. It's really good that we've got that out of Balatro and it's feeding through to loads of other things. It's not suitable for every type of game, obviously, but Upgrade card. Okay, cool. I don't care about any of this yet. I don't care about any of this yet because you haven't let me play a normal round of the game. This is too much pre-explaining of mechanics that I don't care about yet. Right. I want to hit the ones with more bounces first, I think. Hit the green into the other green. It's quite easy to cancel a move if you click on the wrong thing and you want to backtrack, which I appreciate as well. The just general kind of feel and UX of this is really, really solid. It feels as good as it looks. Smash first, explain later. Exactly. Just like Grandma used to say. A black disc. I want a black disc. The spirit of Robert Smith compels me to add a black disc. So this is like the disc thing is almost like a deck builder type thing of you're going to gradually change the stuff you have in the center of the table to score on. Interesting. Oof. That wasn't good. This feels like the sort of thing I could probably get lost in for a very long time. I hope there's some variety to the soundtrack. Because often you find a game that's like this. It's kind of like already at a level of polish that you could quite comfortably sit there and play it for an hour. But it has the same track of music playing for that entire hour. And while I sort of appreciate this particular piece of Weather Channel smooth jazz fusion, I wouldn't want it to go on for longer than, say, 7 minutes. Color discs start with even HP. Okay. Where's my money? Down here. I've got $6 and I can't buy that even though it's, well, 6 cents. I can't buy it. Why can't I buy it? Click where I want to go, that's it. I sort of intuitively in these games want to click the direction that I'm hitting from rather than the direction I'm hitting towards, but this aiming is better than that thing that I intuitively go for, but it would take me a little while to get used to that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So, I've only just learnt about the American Weather Channel. I didn't realise that in America there's a TV channel that just tells you the weather and it has sick music like this all the time. That's not a thing we're exposed to in Britain. And I kept getting memes about it on Instagram, and I sent it to my friend who's a jazz musician from Detroit. And he explained the Weather Channel to me because it was like a meme about how the Weather Channel had sick music. Yeah, maybe it does have the... I don't know if it has... Yeah, maybe it should have the option to flip the aiming, but I don't think it's a problem. It just I noticed when I come back into a round after the screens, I sort of intuitively go to Angry Birds it and try and flick the thing from behind. But I don't think it's necessarily a problem, because as soon as you're back into it, it makes sense again. Hi, Just Ray. If any of these games look interesting and you want to check them out, I will be putting them on the YouTube VOD on the timestamps after the stream. And thanks to Cheese in the Discord community who sort of suggested I do that. I sort of used to do it on and off, and then I didn't know if anyone actually used it. And that's why it's helpful to get feedback on that kind of stuff. Like, what do people find useful from a channel like this? Because every time I sit there and go through and add timestamps and links and stuff, it takes like a half hour of my day. So I want to always make sure that those kinds of things are helpful to people. I don't feel like I'm making much strategic choice about those pick one of these three type things, but also I'm not playing this game for a very long period of time, so I'm not super invested in making the right choice. I do also think if you're making a game at the moment, it has one of those pick three things. Pick one of three. Like pick one, discard two, whatever you want to call it. I would think about the relative complexity of the things in that. Because if you're giving people three choices and they're all like, you know, a couple of sentences of description and you have to understand various game mechanics in order to pick them, that can be a really bad first-time user experience. And this is why games like, you know, Slay the Spire does it with its cards, Vampire Survivors does it with its upgrades. They hide a lot of the more complex stuff so you don't unlock it until later on in the game. And that is a thing that takes work to implement, but it's a double win because you make the game easier to onboard people into, and you give them a chain of things to unlock as rewards. Okay, so 1 malt on bounce when a disc has even HP, 1 malt when a disc is cleared from the table, 1 active disc to the table. Okay, so I'm going to do this one. This is interesting because this is starting to change the way I play. So if I get multi-clear, then this is actually encouraging me to hit those discs that only have 1 health and knock them off the table quicker so that we can drive up our malt. So this is a good sign because it's showing me that the choices actually lead into some strategic thinking, right? Whereas a badly implemented version of this is just like +1 to this, +1 to this, +1 to this, and they don't really make much difference. It's like the illusion of choice. I can see already how this is going to change the way I play. So in games where you're building an engine, you're building an economic engine, or you're building a deck of cards, and then you pilot that thing through the gameplay, there's this distinction between building and piloting. Like, you build the engine, you make it do a particular thing, but that should, in an ideal setup, that's going to then change the way that you operate in the main game, unless it's an idle game. But most of the times, if I'm building a deck and then playing a card game with that deck, or if I'm building an economic engine and then doing something else with that economic engine, the build should change the way it feels to pilot. And that is kind of the enjoyment of the game. It's like you build and tweak the thing, you play with it, you then think, that, you know, I wish it was a bit more like this. I wish I had more health. I wish I was a bit faster. And then when you go back to build the deck, you pick from the 3 choices and you can, you know, whatever. But if doing this doesn't change if doing this doesn't lead to you having to think a different way about the way that you play the main game, then it's probably not really a worthwhile mechanic. I'll save the rest. So I want to now we want to clear off that 1 first. I should have still tried to hit it towards something else. So I want to get the malt from hitting that 1, and then I want to hit the 1 into something else. 6 times 8. That's the Gen Alpha meme at the moment, isn't it? 68. They're all going around saying it. 68, man. Boop. 1 times 7. 1 times 7. Yeah, this is like a simple idea, very well executed. The control thing, I mean, maybe there should be the option to flip the controls, but like I sort of mentioned it as an initial teething pain I had with the game, but I don't think it's necessarily a problem. I mean, if you're paying very, very close attention, you'll notice I tried to Angry Birds it again starting this round, but it's not leading to any kind of misfiring, because as soon as I realize I'm making the mistake, I kind of stop making the shot and I make it from the other side. So that's not really a problem. I would think about how quickly you introduce different upgrade mechanics so that people aren't daunted when they see that first set of 3, because that can be quite daunting. If you have a big set of these, pick one of these 3 upgrades, and the first time the player sees it, it's like a big block of text. I think it was in our Discord recently, one of the developers was saying that people, when they looked at the data on their game, that was the point at which people noped out of the game. It might have been Reddit, actually. But as soon as they see the first one of those, pick one of these 3. And they were interpreting it as like people being sick of that mechanic. But it can also come down to what are you surfacing in that moment. And I think ideally what you want to see, in the ideal one of these, any of these kind of games, Survivors likes, any of these games that have this engine building based on pick one of these 3 things, I think the ideal first experience you can have is that 2 of them are relatively simple and one of them shows that the game has some strategic depth. And you don't have 3 choices that all have like a paragraph of text on explaining a really complex rule with loads of keywords in that you haven't learned yet in the game, right? So the kind of on rails gradually unlocking stuff is a way of making sure that happens, so that you can either cook the books, so in the first user experience every player gets the same set of choices and it's like maybe it's done from a seed and you give every player the same seed in their first run, or you limit the initial pool of things to like 8 simple things to learn the game, and then you very quickly start unlocking the new ones, and then when I reach this point, game over, I get some experience, the game goes, you've just unlocked these 3 new upgrades. They go in the pool, right? That's a system that is a little bit technically tedious to set up, but I think it makes the difference between one of these games that is a throwaway thing that someone plays for a couple of hours and one of these games becoming someone's next Balatro or Slay the Spire or whatever is how do you onboard all of that content, and how do you do it in a way that is not daunting and also tricks the player into thinking that they're getting rewards when what they're actually doing is just unlocking the more complex mechanics that have been hidden from them in the first few sessions of the game. Right, we're going to play Blue Princess. I think I know what this is. I don't have any notes on this in my form, but let's just see what it says. I think we're doing minimalist blueprints. So, roguelike tile drafting game inspired by blueprints where you have to fill a grid-based map in order to reach the castle and save, you guessed it, the Red Princess. The game does not have any story or puzzle elements, mostly to make it an easy experience while maintaining a challenging strategy game. I feel like this is a cop-out. It's totally fine to take one game and make a simpler version of it, but saying that you're doing it for some player-facing reason rather than just because that's the game you could make is a little bit of a cop-out. We were talking about blueprints in the Discord yesterday and how much like you have to enjoy this part of it, the board gamey room drafting part of it, to enjoy the game, because if you don't enjoy that part and you're just trying to get to the puzzles, it's quite frustrating. I had pretty much a perfect blueprints experience, but that was because I was playing it with my partner and we were like taking notes and discussing theories about the game together and so on, and collectively deciding when to spoil a part of the game by going on a guide, which was quite good, because if I was playing it on my own, I probably would have got to a point where I was spoiling the game for myself so frequently and quickly by using a guide as well. Don't Make Me Think was a book about web design. We should probably have that in our reading list. Select a hero. The Prince. A prince wearing blue for no reason. Entering castle for the first time each day gives you 4 stamina and 1 HP. Okay. We've got these stats: stamina, HP, key, scroll, gold luck. We've got a very strange mix of very, very round typography here and pixel art fonts. You don't need to use pixel art fonts, and I would say sometimes they are not very easy to read. But if you're going to do like this mix, I would use a squarer font at least, so it feels like it's kind of loosely in the same category. I'm going to be yellow. So we're starting here. I move that way. I choose a location. Loose floorboards. On draft, 50% chance to lose 1 random pathway. Straight road. I'm going to build a straight road. Right, so I click a room. I choose what room goes there, and then I click to move around. And my stamina is how many moves I've got. Impact crater. Common resourceful luck. Okay. Borderland. On draft, gain 1 luck if it's inside edges. Gain 1 luck if it's in first or last rank. Okay, so I'm not getting any bonuses from that. The tax house. Resourceful structure dead end. Gain 2 gold for each structure you have on the map. I don't have any structures on the map. We're going to do an ice cavern. Locations drafted from here are instead saved for the next day of this run. Okay. I'm going to save. The mechanical implementation here is quite interesting. There's lots of art and audio stuff I'm not going to talk about for a minute because I want to just play the game for a run first. Loose floorboards, 50% chance to lose 1 random pathway. Okay. Thunderland. Whenever you draft a location from here, you have a 25% chance to lose 1 HP. Add 1 to 5 gold randomly. Old golden wall. That's a dead end. Gain 1 stamina for each luck you have. Okay. I don't think I gained any stamina, but I think that was because I lost 1 and then gained 1 straight away. An unbearable landscape. These are very evocative names. I don't have enough gold for any of those things. I think I've... Oh no, I do have a location, okay. Yeah, we made it. Save the princess. Ah, oh, I hate it when my princess is in another castle. Is there a ticking sound? It might be the mic if I... See, earlier I set the mic up so I could hear myself, but then there was a delay on it and it made me speak like I was drunk, so I turned it off. Oh, there's a clicking sound in the game. That's maybe what you're thinking about. So, I like the central board gamey thing of this, but there's so much stuff we could do with this in terms of the art direction and the general creative direction. I think this is a compelling enough core loop for it to be a game that isn't so much trading off of being like a pastiche of the blueprints. That feels like calling it the Blue Princess and putting all of these allusions to the Blue Prince in feel like they're not really doing it justice as a game in its own right, which is a fine thing to do to start off with if you're making a game based on another game, and sort of like to treat it like a pastiche of that game. But I think once you hit this point where you've done the proof of concept and you're thinking about like, what else could I do with this, then it needs to get its own identity. And a sort of jokey version of the blueprints that's done in very janky pixel art is probably not going to appeal to anyone particularly. So what I would, if this was my game, and I'm going to say a big caveat, if this was my game, right? So I'm just going to give you the entire thing I would do with this game from a creative point of view, because I think the core gameplay here is interesting. I like the names of the rooms. I find them quite evocative, but also we're deviating from blueprints here because this is no longer like a map of a house, right? So the house in blueprints, and I'll just get it open so that you can see, it is a building, right? Which kind of justifies why everything is square. It is a building built out of blueprints, and every room is the same shape and stuff, and that kind of helps to justify the squareness of everything. Here we are building a map of a kingdom, effectively. The unbearable landscape, the narrow canyon. These are big, expansive places. I think if this was my game, I would, first of all, take away that music that I just had to turn off, because if someone is playing a turn-based game where the predominant things they are doing are reading and planning, having like thumping music is really, really psychologically disturbing, because it is rushing you. And the only time that music is appropriate is in an action game. The secondary use for that kind of music is when it's a turn-based game and you're trying to fool people into thinking they're an action game, which is what Final Fantasy VII and all of the old Final Fantasies used to do. You're playing a turn-based game which is meant to be a fighting thing, and they want it to feel more like a fighting thing, so they put thumping music in it. But even then, you're not reading big blocks of text while this goes on, right? You're just choosing to attack or do a spell or something. So even though it's kind of slightly inappropriate to put really banging music in a turn-based game, at least that's not a turn-based game where you're constantly reading. Whereas this, I'm trying to read and pass the rules of these different rooms, and you're hitting me with this bam, 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 which is like, if you went to a cafe to read a book, you went to a cafe and you were sat there with your little book, your little game design book, being a little nerd in the cafe, like I know you all do, and they started playing like Sailor Moon Hard House, you wouldn't be able to read, right? And this is a game that requires me to read as one of its mechanics, so it's just not appropriate. I don't like the pixel art, and the reason I don't like the pixel art isn't because of the quality of the pixel art so much. I mean, it could be better, but we try and sort of, go from the perspective of what does it seem that this developer can do. The reason I don't like the pixel art is because you're using board game metaphors, and this would be a lot stronger if all of this seemed like paper and card, because it would immediately set up the kind of affordance thinking of, oh, I know how this works because it's paper and card. There's a stack of these, in blueprints, the room tiles, which is what these things are presented like they are, like a big cardboard thing with rounded corners like a coaster. I've got BMO here that looks suspiciously like the face of the character in my game that I occasionally look round at it and feel bad because my BMO coaster looks too much like the character of my game. But this is what you're trying to evoke with one of those square tiles in the blueprints, is the idea that there's a shuffled deck of these and you're pulling them out and putting them down on a board. And as soon as you turn this to pixel art, it takes us into video game territory, and then you lose the benefit of that design feature, that graphic design feature, because whenever you use cards or dice or something from a board game in a video game, you're helping people to more intuitively understand the video game. And the problem here is that all of the pixel art is telling us that this is a particular type of video game, and actually what we should be doing is evoking a board game, I think. So again, making very sweeping statements about this game, but I think the core gameplay seems really interesting. I'd love to see it developed more, but I personally wouldn't play this game unless it looked more like a board game. And I think the way that you do that is you design all of this stuff to look a lot more like paper and card features. The other thing is just thinking about the layout of the screen. Like, the choice I'm making is in the middle, which kind of makes sense, but it feels a bit weird that the board that's being built is over here in the corner and not taking up much space. So I think the place this game is in is a good place, because you've got a core gameplay that seems quite interesting and you can refine over time. You know, you can add more rooms in. All of those systems are in place. The problems that you have are to do with presentation, which, even if you're not an artist, they are kind of easier to resolve than, you know, core gameplay problems, because it's not a total back to the drawing board. But yeah, I would get that music away, replace it with something much more contemplative that fits with a thinky game where you're reading, and then see if there's a way of visually presenting this game so that it evokes something card and cardboard. And maybe this should feel like, you know, the way I would design this is like, so the space, let's get Canva open. Let's just do it. Let's just redesign the entire game's art. I'm not going to do that, but just to give you like the quickest example of what I'm thinking about when I look at this game. Oh, here's my, I should get a subscription. I should get some sort of, Canva should pay me, basically, because the amount of stuff that I end up doing in Canva on the screen. So I would like to see the board represented as a thing that is printed on parchment or something, because we're building a map of a kingdom, right? So if we do parchment, then we can simultaneously evoke like a retro board game and a kingdom map at the same time. And then we'll do like, how do I find a, tools, shapes. And then you have the board set up with a series of like square rectangles showing you the spaces on the board, which are like hollow, like this. And then the actual pieces that you put on these can be like the pieces you put on these would have like a bevel on so that they look like they're standing out a little bit like that, right? That would be the visual approach I would take for this game. And that might not be where the developer's skill set lies, but I think the core gameplay you've got there is interesting. You've got all the systems in place to make a bigger game with it. So go, like, spend a month going down a visual design and creative direction rabbit hole and find something that is more appropriate, because like banging techno and crunchy pixel art just do not fit that type of contemplative thinking, reading rules, processing strategy type gameplay. That's the biggest problem that game has. Otherwise, it's quite promising, and I would like to see it continued and revisited a bit, I think. But yeah, you need to come up with your own game theme. It needs to not be like a nudge, nudge, wink idea of a game about the blueprints. You know, make it its own thing, its own world with its own reason why you're doing all this stuff. Oh yeah, I didn't have the sound on. Sorry, I turned it off. Basically it was like Sailor music. It was like Sailor Moon music. It was like ba 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 all the time. Okay. Peganomics. What's this? I turned the sound back on. The web builder is quite buggy, especially the music controls and volume. A roguelike Pachinko, drop balls, hit pegs, fill buckets to rack up massive scores while chasing the perfect run. Build wild synergies between your balls, pegs and buckets. Everyone's making Pachinko at the moment. I don't hate it. There's something inherently satisfying about watching things go ping. C64, I do have an external sound card. The problem is that for monitoring, you want to be able to hear what your mic sounds like in the actual software, because I've got things like audio suppressors and compressors and stuff on the mic in Streamlabs. And that's the thing I want to be able to monitor, really. If you're reading this, send help. The game is alive. This has got a lovely, funky, sort of early 90s cartoon vibe to it. Starter reward. I don't want that choice before I've seen what the gameplay is. This is a lovely implementation. Look at all the little squishing that goes on when we... There's like a very gentle, deep thud when the ball hits each pin. I think we had a discussion on the last community stream where Jill submitted their table pinball game. And that was a really interesting example of this, where the game's aesthetic is quite soft and relaxing. So you still want to have all of these explosions and ping noises and stuff, but how do you do that in a way that feels soft? And the sound design choices here are very good for that, because you're getting all that nice impact of it hitting everything, but they're soft. They don't detract from the relaxing mood of the game, right? Yeah, someone already told me about the typo in the name of the stream. We don't have time for that to be worth fixing, especially if it's on... One possible problem here is that the balls and the pegs look very similar to each other. Yeah, we're kind of doing peggle without the... we don't actually break the pegs, right? Which means we can kind of work out a little run within our setup and then do it over and over again. I put the... We want to bounce... This bounces the ball back up. If hit from below, scores 2 times. Ooh. Let's have it there. Goblin peg. See, that's how you do a... That's how you do a cheeky little nice reference to another game. Don't build your whole game around the reference. Just make it like a fun little one-off joke. If baller's head scores 0. I really like the sort of combination of building... I've got a monkey ball as well. The combination of like building the loadout of balls and building the pegs yourself is quite nice. It feels like it could potentially be quite easy to break, but also that's sort of the point of these games. Okay, we're trying to blow the goblin up. That's... Yeah, this is great. I think having the starter reward makes sense in the general flow of the game, but also having it the first time you open the game is a little bit off-putting, I think. So I would just bear that in mind. Like, if the user doesn't have a save file on the game, don't give them a choice before they've played the game. You know? Like, if you have that sort of thing that comes up at the start and says, pick this, just make that not happen the first time someone plays. 30% chance to spawn a honey ball or a bee ball. Okay, put this over here. Not making a lot of active decisions here. I'm mostly just buying random stuff, but... If I got another... So I had like 2 pieces of music running at the same time, and I don't know where they were coming from. Loa said, maybe you need to move the objective and the money to the left side. Just having all the info you need centralized. Let's have a look. I want to see what you mean. The objective and the money to the left side. So this is the objective and the money. Yeah, I see what you mean. So instead of having a thing over here, and then, yeah. I can see how the sort of rationale of the visual organization. These are up here, they go in there, right? So this is where you'd expect it to be because it's at the top before falling down, and that's also where Peggle has them. These are active things we use in relation to this, so that makes sense. I think you're right. If I put these over here, they just need to make sure they don't look like buttons, because these are clearly buttons. They've got the white outline. So as long as these, I put them over here, maybe make this black a little bit see-through so they look more like a passive thing. But I think you're right. Spreading things out less. Right, I'll just play one more round and then we'll move on to the next one. Black hole peg. There's lots and lots of nice variety here in terms of the stuff you can unlock, and it's, you know, these types of games, engine building, again, it's a form of engine building. It's what we'd call engine building in board games, at least. And, oh, that's cool. You want to show people quite early on that there's enough content that you can get different weird builds out of it. And I think the real design challenge in these games is balancing that thing I said earlier about not overwhelming people with too much stuff early on, with assuring them that your game has enough in it. Suzuko, I'll get round to your game when I get round to it, but there is a queue, and stuff gets seen when it gets seen. Okay, let's check out the next one. MyDream.exe. This game encapsulates all the emotions I felt during its development. It's a game for those who dream of becoming game developers, for those who are pursuing their dreams, and for those who have thought about giving up on them. There is a jump scare warning, but they're quite limited jump scares, some psychedelic stuff. Okay. I don't get on very well with dream talk and journey talk. You know me. Whenever anyone talks about making stuff as a journey or a dream, I always just kind of switch off. It's not something I relate to. For me, like, creativity is a habit. It's just something that you do because you're compelled to do. So as soon as anyone starts talking about their game dev journey or their game dev dreams, I just switch off because that's just not how I think about it. It's like, you just do the thing because you need to do the thing. And then if you care about it, you get better at it. And then eventually you get to do it as a career if you are consistent enough in your habits. I really, really, and I know that I'm not representative of anyone else here. But as soon as anyone starts talking about dreams of making games or a journey in game development, it just feels it strikes me as self-aggrandizing in a way that really, really puts me off of like empathizing with that person, because it's like, yeah, loads of us want to do this thing. It's not like a particularly special thing. It's just a thing that lots of people want to do, and you get more opportunities to do it the more you practice it. And it's not, there shouldn't be any more emotionality to it than that in my mind. But let's see how we get on. I like that we saw a Earthbound reference in that message. What's going on here? This is very cute. Okay, so I'm using Waz to walk, and then I've got some shooting. It's a very cute sound effect. The one that fires upwards has got a higher pitch range. Oh no, that's just my brain being weird. Okay. You turned on the PC. Game development is not easy if you don't know the basics. Pressing random keys and hoping for results isn't an option. That's good to know. You turned on... we're gonna... same thing again. What's over here? Getting a phone call? Yo! Can you hear me? You were supposed to help me with my homework. Did you forget? Ahahaha. Pro tip, whenever you do these kind of typing animations, read the text out aloud along with the typing animation, and if you find that you're having to slow down to read it out aloud, speed it up. It should be coming out at the speed that you speak at when you read it out loud. If I'm having to slow down to read this, then it's not. It's too slow. In fact, you would be the one to make them for me. Liabu, totally disagree. I've been making art and doing all sorts of music and media and stuff since I was a teenager. I have never thought about it in terms of dreams. I'm just making the project I'm currently working on. That goes in a portfolio, and then I apply for jobs and I show people my portfolio. There is no big dream. It's just not how I think. And I also think lots of people that I know who have full-time jobs in the creative industries don't think that way either. They're too hyper-focused on what they're doing at that moment in time. They don't think about where they're trying to get to. They're just focused on that one specific thing they're working on and maybe the next project they want to do. This kind of narrativization of the self as like, I'm doing this now because I want to do this later on. I don't think that's how people get good at any kind of creative media in general. It might be, most of us are driven by the fact that we love doing the thing so much, so we would like to be able to eventually make a living from it, so we need to get good at it. But that is so that we can continue doing the thing. It is not motivated by the idea of being a particular type of person, like being a game developer. It is motivated by the fact that I like doing this activity and I would rather do this 8 hours a day than something else for 8 hours a day. And the people who enjoy the activity enough to do it for 8 hours a day in the first place are too focused on the activity to be thinking that way about other stuff, I think. Help me do my homework or I'll get angry. Six plus 1 equals 4. What is happening? Sorry, I missed out that last bit of dialogue because I was ranting. You had better continue to be. This is a very lovely put together action scene. Oh, I see. So yeah, sorry, I missed the instruction on this. We're trying to change that into the correct. You should be. You could do my homework forever. Okay. So this is fun. This is a good idea. It's a very silly way of controlling the thing, but that's intentional. Can I change the equal side? I'm not fast enough to... Can I do 2 plus 2? There we go. Come on, stop resisting. This is too hard for a first go at whatever it is. So I need to get the equation to match up, but I need to balance both sides, and you don't really know what numbers can be on each side until you've hit it a bunch of times. This is way too hard for whatever this is meant to be at the start of a game. If it's just proof of concept and this is something that you're going to hit someone with in the middle of a game, then fine, but it feels like it has a very specific story purpose that you've given it, and... Animation's beautiful, art assets are great, music and the visual style go together wonderfully, writing seems quite charming, but that was way too difficult for the first thing you're asking someone to do in a game. You turn on the PC. Game development is not easy if you don't know the blah, 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 blah. Looks like a note about video game programming. Var name is 100. Move on. Don't move on. I don't understand. It's time to smash some zombies. Let's go! Zombie shooter. Throw your marbles at robot zombies to defeat them. Get ready! We just seem to have a series of mini games that are all set around this person being a game developer that doesn't leave their room. Okay. Those robot zombies are very cute. I like them. Who is the target audience? I don't know. I don't think you always have to think about things in terms of target audience, but it does kind of just... It's got very strong... I like games when they're about life and emotions more when they're not also about games, you know? Loads of lovely little interactions here. In terms of like being able to push things around and everything, but yeah, it's not... Oh, I can turn the light on. I'll turn the light off. I get scary eyeballs. It does feel quite surreal, yeah. Well, when I say a game about emotions, you know, I'm just talking about like story games that are meant to be evocative in some way, you know? Which is lots of different types of games, but I'm generally... This is a very personal thing, but generally speaking, I don't like self-referential media that much. Like, I don't like games about games very much. I don't like movies about movies. I don't like it when rappers spend all the time rapping about how good they are at rapping. And that's just a total personal taste thing, but I just think that the time could be better spent talking about some other aspect of life than the medium itself. And it's why, you know, that is why something like the Stanley Parable is one of the most widely accepted art games, because it appeals to the sorts of people that want games to be serious art, but don't want the games that are serious art to be about anything. So when the Stanley Parable came out, you know, it's in the same sort of time frame as a game like Gone Home, which is about, you know, being a queer person in a family that doesn't accept it, as far as I remember. And people are like, oh no, we don't want that. But then when you make a funny game that's about the conventions of video games, so, oh, this is really clever. It makes me feel clever because it's about games and it's making me feel clever. I always feel like media that is about the medium itself has that tendency of just becoming this fan service of going, oh, look how clever you are. You understand this game about games. I don't think that's what this is trying to do. This seems to be more of like a reflective emotional experience about one individual's thing of, you know, trying to do a particular thing. But I don't find the idea of someone in a room at their computer trying to make a game, I don't find that to be an aspirational or inspirational thing. It's just, it's depressing more than anything, you know? Like, it's the reason people make game studios, so that instead of being one person alone on a computer in their own house, they can go to an office and work with 2 or 3 other people and share ideas and stuff like that. That's the thing that I aspire to, is not grinding a game out on my home computer for 5 years. I think Stanley Parable's great. I'm not hating on Stanley Parable. I'm just talking about the sort of the way Stanley Parable is held in such high regard compared to games which are about genuine things in people's lives and the world and stuff like that. Stanley Parable has some of that in, but the reason it's held in such high regard is that so many of the jokes hinge around how much do you know about video games? Oh, aren't you clever? You noticed that we're making this conceptual joke about video games. It's like Watchmen for comics, right? Watchmen did the same thing. It's called deconstructionism, where you sort of take apart the media that you're working in. It's okay. You need it sometimes. It's almost like a medium's way of saying it's arrived. When we got Watchmen for comics, it was like, hey, comics can start to self-critique and look at themselves and stuff. That's interesting. I don't think a game about the struggles of making a game is particularly interesting. I could see how lots of people would relate to it, but yeah. I'm going to have one more go at this because I want to see if it's easier if I don't end up surrounded by whatever those things were. The problem with being deconstructivist is you have to be incredibly good at the thing at the same time to do it to a decent standard. You notice the example I'm giving of comics is like Alan Moore, who is literally one of the best comics writers ever. Not a random guy who hadn't written loads of good comics before he made Watchmen, you know? What are the things supposed to be that follow you around after you get hit by the music? Are they teeth? Are they my teeth? Oh. Yeah, so basically what is happening in this game, and the reason why it was so hard the first time we did this minigame, is every time you get hit, you get one of those things orbiting you. So it sort of double punishes you for doing badly by making the game harder and harder and harder. Yeah, so it can block projectiles, but it also blocks your own projectiles. Which is interesting. The broken piece of your hearts, yeah. It's also not super clear which things in the environment do anything, so you end up doing the kind of pixel hunt thing. It's not even pixel hunt, it's just like going around pressing E on everything, which... You need to complete all tasks for sleep. I decide what my tasks are, buddy. You haven't told me what my tasks are, so if you're not going to tell me what my tasks are, then, okay, so if I read the game programming note before I go on the computer, does it achieve anything? Ah, it seems that variables are really important. A non-stupid person would have gotten that there on their own. Oh, okay. Haha, I've been waiting for you. You won't get anything done today, loser. Bar. This is neat. Really, really lovely visual tricks here and nice kind of simple puzzle mechanic there, but very nicely done. So basically it tells us the answer there and then we go into the computer and you just have to recall that thing, but also it fits the shape. I don't want to do the zombie game, but I think it's forcing me to. I think the heart shield mechanic or whatever it is just really irritating. Like getting to the point where it's this cluttered and you have to fire through it, it's just not enjoyable. And I understand that it's not supposed to be enjoyable because it's trying to make us feel bad because that's the type of game this is. But it's like, yeah, I understand kind of doing certain things with the game design to make people feel a particular way, but you're also making like a skill-based mini game, and it gets increasingly less fun the more of those things are spinning around you. And I get that it's maybe an art game and it's not supposed to be fun, but you know what? I wish people would stop sending me art games that aren't meant to be fun. Because it's very hard to give game design feedback on them. Yeah, you expressed a thing. Shadow. The games I'm playing today have been chosen by a secret society of anthropomorphic woodland creatures that live in my back garden. What's this? Cozy card game. Cozy card game. It looks like we've got a pack of art from like a sort of free-to-play casual game here rather than cozy per se, but let's see how we get on. This looks interesting. What does it say here? One of two versions of my project. Other one is same mechanic but in not card theme. Okay. That's not very helpful to me. Telling me that you sent me one version of something that you've made two of does not give me any helpful context about what this is or what I should know before playing it. Feed the cat. Give the cat a carrot. Give the cat a pumpkin. Give the cat an orange. Give the cat a... Who is this for? Who is this for? This is like a child's mobile phone app. Look, I don't have a problem with cozy or cute things, but what am I doing here that isn't just an automatic activity? Time to buy some upgrades. It says game over at the top there. Need more place? Need more place? Upgrade your space. I will. Thanks. Do you want some of that? You want some of that? You want some of that? I'm trying not to overfeed you. Oh, I see. So they have an amount, and that's how many items they've been given, and we don't want to give them too much, but we want to hit the number. So there is a game here. 7. They're happy. 6. You can have 6. You can have 5. You can have 5. Cats love radishes, famously. It is yeah, I mean, it does feel like a phone game. It doesn't feel like an indie game. It's very cute. Literally having a discussion just this morning with someone about the fine line between... I don't like that the cats die and their eyes get crossed. That's a bit morbid. The fine line between making a cute art style that feels like it's for children and feels like it's for adults. It's really difficult. And I tend to like things that are like cartoony and goofy, but this does feel more like a mobile game that would be aimed at children rather than like an indie game for adults. Why did that one die? Why do the cat keep dying? The rules are very unclear. You're totally right in the chat there. The rules are very unclear. I overfeed this one slightly, but I don't fill up all the white things, and I score fine. Then this guy, I give him... Yeah, he's alright. Have a mushroom. Have a lollipop. Have a carrot. So you're trying not to feed them to excess, which is like... how many numbers over the limit it goes. I think it's blackjack. The most unclear version of blackjack you've ever seen. Okay, let's try that. So that was exactly 21. It's blackjack. Are you telling me that we have literally been sitting here for 5 minutes trying to work out how this game works, and it's blackjack? It is such a well-concealed version of blackjack that you just can't work out. That says 11-1. Does that mean it can be 11 or 1? Okay. It's blackjack. It's blackjack with 4 hands at once. And you know what? Playing 4 games of blackjack at once, it's quite good once you know that that's what you're doing. The thing is, there's nothing here that it indicates it's out of 21. There's definitely something quite compelling about playing 4 games of blackjack at the same time, but why did it take that long to work out that that's what we were doing? Ah! Yeah, it kind of feels like a mobile game that is designed to get you to this point, and then you go, oh, I need a new another burn. I need to give you 50p. So you've hit a point where you have to bust. But at least I can click on this heart and it does stuff. A lot of like care gone into making all these little interactions and stuff. But yeah, it's like it's really funny. It kind of comes back to that Blue Princess game from earlier. Like if you have a metaphor to do with some sort of physical components from a tabletop game, then make sure it's clear that that's what it is, because it will help people learn the game. I probably think this is more charming than the card version of it would have been, but there's just nothing here to teach us that it's blackjack, and that, you know, the part of this is the communication, where if we go back to the start, when we go to play, it says feed the cat, okay. Make it to 21. There, that was the bit I missed. 5 meals will also feed me. So if they have 5 little meals and they don't get to 21, then that also counts. This meal will feed me instantly. Okay. This food will overfeed me, burn it. Okay. Why was that the evil cat? Why was the evil cat coming out of the ground looking all evil? I'm very distracted today, and this means that if we miss one line of text in a tutorial, I'm screwed for like 10 minutes. This has happened more than once today. Time to buy some upgrades. Yeah, I told you we were playing Bowser games. It wasn't a typo. Ah, should have put that on. Quite compelling though. Also, this song's a banger. This song is definitely what it feels like to feed a pretzel to a cat. Like if I was just out in the wild and I had a pretzel and a cat came along and the cat was like, "Give me some of your pretzel," this music would fit that situation perfectly. Robin, I think your game should be text-free for the most part. I mean, making everything so intuitive that it doesn't need a tutorial should be the first port of call before you make a tutorial. Like, how can you make everything in the game visually suggest what it is or does? Because if you get that right, your tutorial will need to do less. Can cats digest carbohydrates? They can, as long as they only have exactly 21 carbohydrates. If they have 22 carbohydrates, they die immediately. Just like what happened there. That's very charming. it felt like something that was trying to gear up to be a mobile free-to-play game, which is not something I enjoy or approve of. But I mean, yeah, very charming. I think you need a way to not hide that information away in one line of the tutorial. Because seeing that it was 20 out of 21 would have immediately given me a clue, even though I skipped that line of the tutorial or was distracted by chat or whatever. Revenge is best served chaotically. The bulldozers roared, the trees fell, Omnicorp paved over your paradise to build a parking lot, a factory, and whatever else made them rich. They took your home. You were a cyber snake on a mission of pure, unfiltered vengeance. In this physics-based arcade sandbox, your only goal is simple. Cause as much spectacular high-scoring destruction as possible. Okay. I like that they've actually set questions for people to give feedback on. What was the most fun or satisfying moment you had? Was there anything that confused or frustrated you? After your first run ended, did you feel like hitting restart? That's good. Give your playtesters questions. This is the Danger Noodle. Okay, I'm WASDing and I can jump. I feel like I missed... There were controls came up for a second and I was... Space or double click to jump, shift or right click to stomp. I don't like this starting in front of the... This weird thing we're doing with the camera at the start. It's very... I don't understand how the camera is supposed to work in this game, because it's not like a full... Like, I can rotate the camera, but it's not an over-the-shoulder deal. You've started me so far away from anything I can destroy as well. I can't. The camera controls are so strange, and I can't tell if it's a bug or how that's how it's meant to be. Okay, so you jump above things and then you press shift to sort of like ground pound onto them. And we're doing Goat Simulator, but with a snake. Unfortunately, yeah, there is no way to get the camera and the mouse to line up properly. So that looked like it was going to be quite amusing, but I'm not going to spend any longer with it, because if you've got an issue like that, like 5 seconds into loading up a game, then that's okay. The Melting Dead. Playing in browser can be a bit laggy. WASD and arrow keys to move, mouse to look around, escape to pause the game. A short 3D isometric survival game with elements of horror. Melt the dead with your lantern, progress through the zombie-infested forest, and uncover the mystery of your camp. Okay, we're melting monsters with our lantern. Classic. Yeah, I mean, that last game, even if it had been working right, a bit strange to start us so far away from all the stuff we're supposed to be smashing if we're playing a smash 'em game. Let us get straight into it, you know? Don't place us miles away from... We're doing mini Alan Wake here. We're Alan Wake, but it's inside Animal Crossing. Yeah, it's a bit laggy on the web build, fortunately. I mean, zombies melting from light doesn't sort of make inherent sense. We've got some that speed up when you burn them, and some that die when you burn them, and the only way of telling is a red or green outline, so I think you can probably immediately see a problem with that. The thing is, the monsters in Alan Wake aren't zombies, they're like shadow beings, and that makes the using light against them thing make sense, whereas this is just like, these look like classic zombies, and they can be hurt by light for some reason. I like the art style, I like this kind of... It looks almost like a Playmobil guy. And I like the way you've got this little jaggedy outline. Yeah, it gets hard way too quickly. I can't really get past the first two groups. Anytime we have games that are about sort of survival, I always end up saying the same thing, which is like, let the player have fun before you try and kill them. This feels like it's trying to kill me straight from the get-go, rather than just letting me have a fun couple of minutes of just experiencing the game and learning how it works, and like going, oh yeah, I can do this, I can kill these guys. And it's just got it out for me straight from the get-go. So, you know, that's the thing to think about with any skill-based game where the user can fail. It's like, are you actually onboarding someone into having fun before you start trying to beat them up? Because if your approach is just to immediately start trying to kill the player before they've even learned how to do the game and they don't know anything about how to progress, I don't know, you probably, I would think, are the sort of person that goes to the beach and kicks people's sandcastles over. That's what it reads as to me. So you're not interested in the player having fun. You're just interested in kicking over their sandcastle. Okay, I'm gonna try a bit harder this time. I think the best way to get past that first bit is to lure them in here and then use this as a choke point. I'm not sure what picking up that little pickup from earlier did either. So yeah, we get introduced to the second type of zombie that you're not supposed to put the light at. They get introduced very quickly and we don't have any way we can do anything about them. Do they just die after a certain amount of time? So because the game is so difficult from the get-go, it's kind of reduced me to using this cheesy strategy of trying to bottleneck them in that gate and then killing them the easy way, because killing them the proper way is too challenging for the start of the game. I really like the aesthetic of this. I like the way that the art's been handled. I like the colour palette. I like the character. I just think you need to think a little bit more about how you structure the challenges in your game. And also theming, you know, if you're going to have there are monsters and you kill them with light, I think making them look like traditional flesh zombies doesn't help with that theme. You want creatures of pure shadow or black slime or something rather than flesh zombies. Excuse me. That's one that just gets stunned and stopped when you shine the light on it. But now it's stuck in the doorway. Yeah, okay. I think we've seen enough of that. Little bit too much jank. Little bit too little concern for, you know, what that actually feels like to play for someone who's new to the game. Right, last one. last one for today. Don't have any notes on this one. Round-based hex tile strategy game set on a strange alien world. Build, expand and survive by placing tiles wisely to shape the flow of resources through mysterious veins that spread across the land. Every phase, the consumption of the central tile, the nexus grows more. Draw tiles from the deck and expand the world. Okay. Color palette looks good. It's got a tutorial. Okay. Didn't really need to read that then. I need resources to survive. I only have left 90 of all resources. Connect to my veins to feed me. I will. Okay, so we're doing... We're just doing Carcassonne, I guess. Yeah, background's cool. Your pump produces that... Okay, we're getting the blood resource now. Build a moss bed with a thatch in it. The thatch produces that. Okay. The thatch, that's that little house. It's a very strange set of things. I guess they're kind of going for like Mesoamerican, it's kind of Aztec stuff, but with some strange alien, it's a creature and it's pumping blood around. I think Robin in the chat, Dev, if you're watching this, Robin in the chat has the most helpful feedback, which is that the tendrils should throb. And I find myself agreeing with that to a certain degree. That they should occasionally go, a little blump should go along them. That would be disgusting and wonderful. I haven't played with the Playdate, no. I would love to get one at some point, but... Remove a tile from the map. Use the shovel to extend the 7 moss bed. I see I mean, I don't feel like I would be able to do this in the normal game because you don't know what's coming up enough to be able to deliberately do that. Resources don't fall out of open veins or moss. Veins and moss move resources to connected tiles. Connect everything to the center to deliver the resources. Okay. Hover tiles on the map to watch resources flow. Hover over the resources bar to see how resources are distributed. Stone, leaf, brain, spore, cells. Select the trash can and throw the ground tile away. Okay, so if we don't want the current tile, that's what the trash can is. Electricia creates blood and destroys... Okay. Can I put that where... No, I can't put that wherever I want. Some tiles have incompatibilities. You placed a tile that produces one thing and destroys another thing. You need to place a filter in between. Blocks the flow of leaf. This is a very strange game economy. Got blood, leaf, stone, brain, spore, and cells. It's cool though. It's kind of like some planet you would visit in some bigger sci-fi game like Returnal or something. This is how I imagine the planet in Returnal working. Okay, it's just letting me build my own thing now a little bit. Creates a random adjacent tile to tile hand when placed. Copies it. Oh, okay. Can I get that? I can't get any of these? We buy some dice and then we spend them on these. That's interesting. Yeah, it feels like, you know, people in the chat saying they're overwhelmed. For me, it feels like we're getting a lot of text information about new rules and not getting enough chance to play. I want to play a little bit more between the chunks of tutorials so that I'm actually onboarding into what is fun about doing this thing. Because it looks fun. I love the aesthetic. I love the theming. But I do want to get involved a little bit more between every bit of information we get. They've done it's a very cool idea though to make this kind of very alien approach to a kind of 4X type game. One in 1,000 chance to create 10,000 of a random resource. So it's like yeah, we're doing kind of crazy numbers, incremental stuff here as well, which is kind of satisfying. Now I've got more options for stuff I can play. It's not just one at a time. Music's a banger. Don't know what your man's singing about, but could be anything. It's probably singing about how much he loves harvesting blood and moss, I think. You know, you go on the music library, you're like, have you got any songs about blood and moss? And this is the only song on there. We've run out of tiles for the face, so it's got this weird mix of it being like a real-time thing where So at the moment, everything's going up, and these 3 things aren't going down, so I'm okay. But when one of these starts being spent, then we'll be in danger of something killing the game, because these are all life, so anything that drops to 0 quits the game for us. That's interesting. Feels like a really intriguing game economy to try and learn. Very strange. Just trying to get anything that has the other... Yeah, it's like... It's a kind of same... It's like got the kind of creative direction of a game like Zuma, where it's clearly based on all this like Aztec and Incan stuff, but it's also slightly alien and sci-fi and feels a bit like this could be this place that we're playing this game in, whatever it is. It feels like it could be like the alien world from Scorn, or yeah, like Returnal, or something a bit more psychedelic and sci-fi like that. Make legendary tiles appear more often. Double the amount. Replace same phase. Okay. Yeah, I think so. This is starting to go down now. I don't know why stone is starting to go down. Oh. I don't know why that's flashing red as well. Is that the thing that's consuming my stone? I don't know. But I can create 300 stone once. So we're going to put that somewhere. Doesn't matter where it is. It can go wherever it wants. It is on a moss though, so we'll put moss around it here. That thatch isn't... There we go. So the moss beds, you have to get them in 7 or 13 bits around like this. Creates a leaf and destroys blood. Where can I even put that? I need to put a filter on it somewhere. Are we playing sort of like alien jungle culture Factorio? Is that what's going on here? That won't go there. Placement rules are taking a little bit of time to learn, but I mean they're bound to, because it's such a... We've got click, drag on left click. I would much prefer that to be on the right or the center mouse button, but it just feels a bit unintuitive. I've got lots of empty moss beds and nothing to put in them, but we'll get there, I guess. We all need to learn throat singing. I did own a didgeridoo once, but I could never quite... I could sound it, but I could never get the circular breathing. Converts stone into brain. Converts blood and stone into brain. I want that. So I'm using cells to buy dice. That's not very intuitive. But I guess none of it is. I think that's part of the... There's always this interesting question of like how intuitive should your game be, and I think most of the time you want to go down the route of making things as easy as possible, but there are certain types of games where you're trying to encourage the player to think about the system as a big puzzle to learn, and this is kind of why I gradually got won over by Slay the Spire, because I really didn't like the creative direction of Slay the Spire for a very long time. I didn't like the monster design. I didn't like how everything had weird names. It was just like, why does this all need to be weird? Why does it all need to be like Adventure Time with the numbers shaved off? And then I realized that what they're actually trying to do is make it so that you approach every enemy and situation in the game with an analytical mind that makes you look at it and not just go, oh, that's a slime, I know how to deal with that. Everything in that game is like encouraging you to treat it as a puzzle, and I think that's kind of what's going on with this game as well. It's weird, but it's not weird for the hell of it. It's weird in a way that makes you go, okay, I don't understand how any of this system works, because it's not a city builder with electricity and water and taxes. It's a set of things that has its own arbitrary relationship to each other. And that means I need to really think about this and work out how it works, rather than starting with my assumptions about how electricity and water and taxes work, because it's based on the real world, right? This game is called, I'm going to play one more round of it, but it's called Vena, V-E-N-A. If you're looking on YouTube, I'll be adding links to the VOD as soon as I get off the stream as well, and putting the timestamps on. But yeah, this is great. This is a gem. I think I will probably come back and play this again at some point. We need some more stone, so let's get that, because it didn't go back up. Did I not get the resource that I thought I was going to get then? I don't know. Creates blood improved by adjacent ground tiles. It's not really what I need right now, is it? It can only go left or right. It's very unintuitive placement rules sometimes. Siphon converts leaf and blood into stone, destroys brain. It says open. The Nexus is on the verge of collapse. Feed resources immediately. I don't have any stone. Can I generate stone by destroying stuff? No, I can't. Converts blood into brain, not rotatable. So here you would have to dig out a space where that would already fit. Pop it in there. Creates blood, periodically destroys stone. Died. That's cool. Tip, read each tile description carefully. That was the winner of the Godot Wild Jam number 85. That was cool. I like that. I don't think it's Balatro-esque to have some dice that you spend on something. Rolling dice and then using the randomness to limit the pool you can choose from is like a very common thing in certain types of tabletop games. What's that innkeeper game called? Taverns of Taefenthal. So there's a subgenre of board games called dice placement games where you roll the die and then you have all of these things that trigger, and you can spend a 4 on this, or you can spend a 3 on this and stuff. This is what Taverns of Taefenthal was made by the people that made Quacks of Quedlinburg, and that's quite an interesting way of using dice, because instead of rolling the die to get a response to something you've already chosen to do, which is what happens in Dungeons and Dragons, unlike kids roll and move games. You're rolling the die and then you've got a set of dice and then you go, oh, okay, I've got 2 6s, a 3 and a 1, and then you look at the situation and you work out what to spend them on. So it's like I wouldn't say that's necessarily a gambling mechanic just because there's randomness involved. It is a way of providing you with a limited choice that changes each time. And those, Yahtzee is a simplified version of the same thing, really. You're using the dice to tick off a set of things and you get to choose what you're ticking them off. Yeah, the background don't make sense. It's a cool background, though. I don't have a video about randomness yet, no. Because I would just end up repeating lots of things that other people have already said. It will come at some point. What I'm doing at the moment is working on my book and then converting each chapter to a video on the channel when I see it is useful. But we're still at the stage yet where I've never done a video explaining what a game mechanic is. So I'm trying to like order the videos I do in almost as if it's a course, you know? Right, I'm going to log off in a second. I'm going to go and stick these timestamps on this video so people can find the games if they want to, if they find the links. And I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Tomorrow we have got 4 puzzle games that have already linked if you want to check them out beforehand. I'm doing more streams than I usually do this week because I'm moving on Monday, and I think I'm going to have no internet next week. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a good